Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you how to configure this PlayStation emulator. The version I'm using is 1.8.0. We're going to start by configuring the BIOS. Go to Config, down to BIOS. Here you will go to Select, browse to the folder where you have your BIOS files saved, and select the file that you want to use. Once you do that, click Open. You have now configured the BIOS. It's that simple. Go back to Config. Next, go to CD-ROM. Here you're going to have a drop-down menu. These are the different plugins you could use. I am using WNT W2K Core 1.7.0. Once selected, you're going to hit OK and then Configure. Select from the drop-down menu the letter that corresponds to your CD drive. Once that is complete, click OK. Click OK. You have just configured your drive. Now when you go to Sound, another drop-down menu. Here I am using the SPU Core 1.8.0. This particular plugin does not need any configuration and it works pretty good. Make sure that Sound Enabled is checked. Click OK. You are complete with this section. Go back to Config. Go to Video. Here you're going to have another drop-down menu. I'm going to be using Pete's D3D Driver 1.76. Once I select the plugin I'm going to use, I'm going to hit Configure. In this window, you're going to have a couple of different sections that you could configure. At the very bottom left, you have your default settings for either fast, performance, or nice graphics. I am going to go with the default fast settings. I am going to adjust a couple things, not too many of them. On the resolution and colors, I am going to do windowed mode. You could also do full screen. You have desktop resolution. You also have your window size and your color depth. These are things that you could configure however you see fit. I am going to leave the default settings on there. On textures, I'm also going to leave the default settings there. They work good for me, but if you want to mess around with them, tweak them, and see how they work for you, go ahead. Now, one thing about this plugin that I like is that whenever you click the drop-down menu, it gives you a quick explanation of some of the side effects that the application might experience depending on what you picked. Now, like I said, I'm going to leave the default settings, which is the second option on texture quality, 0 on texture filtering, high res, I'm going to leave at 0, and also the GFX card at 0. On frame rate, I'm also going to leave the defaults there, but you could also select any of these boxes. The first one will show you the frame rates when you're playing a game. You could also use a FPS limit or the frame skipping. Now, if you leave it at auto detect, it works well. But if you want to set a limit, just select that option and put in your limit that you want to use. On compatibility, I'm leaving it default. The default is 1010. You could see minimum, and it lets me know that some screens are going to be missing. I did leave the alpha multipass checked. Then on the miscellaneous section, I left it with the default too. So pretty much if you leave all the defaults in there, the application should run fine. You could always go back in here and adjust it and see how it works for you. Once that is complete, you have just completed the video. Now you could go ahead and configure memory cards if you want to, and this just lets the program know where the save files are going to go to. You could also go back to config, down to Gamepad, and configure your gamepads. On this screen, you're going to select the keys that you want to configure and replace it with whatever keys you want to use, whether you're using a keyboard or you're actually using a gamepad. Once you have it configured, you will click OK, and it's going to save your configuration. Now you're ready to play some games. If you go to File, you're going to have a couple different options. If you run CD-ROM, it's going to read your drive, and whatever game you have on there is going to start it. If you run ISO, you're going to have to select an image. So I'm going to go with Run ISO. I'm going to go to the folder where I have my ROM saved. I'm going to select the disk image I want to use, click Open, and it will automatically start the game. And that's how you configure this particular emulator. If you leave it at the default settings, you should be able to play it with no issues. You could always go back to config and tweak it, change things, and see how they work for you. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, just leave questions down in the comments box. Thank you.